are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome everyone. I am Jennifer Biang with Learning Ally, and as part of our Summer Reading Together book club, we want to welcome author Christy Scattarella. She wrote a really good book called The Boy Who Learned Upside Down. She's going to share with us today some of the details behind the idea for the book and how her work has continued to evolve. And we're so excited to have all of you guys reading with us this summer and doing these book chats. One thing I love about this book and Christy's story is that she took the problems that her son was having with school and really turned it around and helped him and so many others. Before we get started, I'm going to just quickly review our platform and talk just real quickly about our Summer Reading Together program. And this is our agenda. We're just going to follow through this real quick and get started. We're going to have a Q&A at the end, so as questions come up, feel free to type them in. We'll do that at the end. But let's go ahead and go to the next slide, and we'll talk about how the platform works. Okay, so this little orange arrow at the top hides or shows your control panel. So if you lose your control panel during the session, just click on that. It'll open right back up. If you called in today by the telephone only, you will need to enter your audio PIN to be able to speak later on. We're going to have the opportunity to ask a live question if you want to. The little box there that says questions, feel free to type questions as we go, because at the end we're going to get as many as we can in. We're also have the little hand icon there that you can click on, and that will raise your hand. At that point, I'll know that you want to be unmuted and ask a question live. Christy is actually going to ask a couple questions throughout the presentation too, so if you can just put your replies either in the chat box, or if you want to say something out loud, just raise your hand and we'll unmute you. Today's webinar is going to be recorded, and we're going to share that link with everybody in an email after the session. Let's go to the next slide. So if you're new to Learning Ally, I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of what we do here at Learning Ally. We help students with print disabilities thrive, and we have several programs in place to do that. We have the parent support team that works with parents to provide support and education. We have the Yes ambassadors, and we actually have a webinar coming up this weekend, Saturday and again on Tuesday. And if you go to the learningally.org website, you can sign up and join. These are kids that are teenagers, and they're mentoring to younger students, and it's just been a phenomenal program that we have going. We also have College Success Program for the blind and visually impaired, and we partner with thousands of schools to help educators and specialists support students with print disabilities, and we provide professional development to educators on topics such as dyslexia and differentiated instruction for the whole classroom. We have a library that's a little bit different than any other. It's all human read, and we have a huge selection of educational books and textbooks. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Next slide, please. Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. Summer Reading Together is running through August 1st, and it is a wonderful program that we've put together. We have a bunch of students that are participating. If you sign up for the Summer Reading Together, you just log into the learningally.org website, and you'll have the opportunity to sign in. If you do sign up, you'll have the opportunity to win a tablet or a prize pack. We hope you tell your friends to come. This you don't have to be a member of Learning Ally to participate. So we have a printable calendar. Let's go to the next slide, and we'll see the calendar there. And this printable calendar, you can just download it and print it off, post it on the refrigerator. This will hopefully encourage everybody to get reading. And for non-members who want to become members of Learning Ally, they can use the code SUMMER20 to get a 20% discount. And now let's get started with our presentation today. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Christy Scattarella is the author of the award-winning children's book, The Boy Who Learned Upside Down, based on the real-life story of her son's courageous journey from I can't to I can. She is the founder and executive director of the Shadow Project, the only nonprofit of its kind in the country, and they team with schools and teachers to build a culture of literacy for students that learn differently. Christy there's Christy there right there on our webcam. So here's, let's see, let's go ahead and just get started straight into the presentation. Hi, Christy.
Great.
Welcome. How are you doing?
Wonderful. So happy to be here.
Oh, we're happy to have you.
Great.
Okay.
To start out, I want to tell you my son has ADD and dyslexia, and that this book is based on his journey from I can't to I can. And that was a courageous journey that has inspired me in so many ways. So today, in addition to reading some passages from the book, we're also going to talk a little about my favorite subject in the entire world, and that's courageous kids. Here's how the book opens. I'm going to stop sharing there. Alex is at his desk at school, mid-crisis. Not again. Alex stared at his book report. Red marks covered it like chicken pox. What's wrong with me, he thought. I never get anything right. It's time for silent reading, said Mrs. Foster. Let's take out our books. Let's not, thought Alex. But he opened his book anyway. As he ran his fingers under each line, the letters began to wiggle and squirm. Hold still, he hissed, pressing his finger down to stop them. It was no use. S slithered like a snake. C turned a cartwheel so it looked like a U. P popped right off the page. Suddenly, whole words seemed to be jumping out of the book and scurrying down the hall. Alex slumped in his seat. Reading was too hard. Everything about school was too hard. I give up, thought Alex. I give up. I'm going to pause there and wonder if there are any parents out there who have heard statements like this from their kids. If so, raise your hand or put something in the chat box. Not sure how your kids deal with that feeling, but the way Alex deals with that feeling was to daydream. And right now he is daydreaming that his dog, Shadow, is there to rescue him from reading. Fetch, he'd command, and she'd chase those runaway letters and plop them right back in their place. Unfortunately, though, Alex's daydream is interrupted when the teacher reminds him that today is his first day to go to Mrs. Sandy. Oh, no, Alex had forgotten because, as everyone knows, Mrs. Sandy is the place for kids who have trouble reading. So he's got to walk out of the classroom now with all these eyes on him, and his sneakers squeak like trapped mice. He heads down the hall like he's on his way to a dank dungeon. But then, when he opens the door, it's this warm, sunny place with a tower of stuffed animals stacked to the ceiling. At the tip top is the world's most outrageous rat. And this is a rat. It's got suction-cut claws, glow-in-the-dark eyeballs, and its fur is the color of a chocolate milkshake. Whoa, said Alex. What a rat. Then he heard a voice say, How would you like to earn that rat? Alex turned to see Mrs. Sandy. Really? He asked. To keep? How? You can earn it by being a courageous student, said Mrs. Sandy. A courageous student? Alex gulped. Him? Brave? Courage was for knights or superheroes, not for someone like him. What do I have to do? He asked. 3 things, said Mrs. Sandy. First, tell yourself I can instead of I can't. It takes courage not to give up on something that's hard, and that includes school. Next, help someone else. That takes courage too. And finally, believe in yourself. That takes the most courage of all. Alex wasn't sure he could do any of those things. What did that even mean, believe in yourself? But he looked at Mrs. Sandy and nodded. For that beady-eyed rat, he was willing to try. I'm going to pause here for a moment on that word courage. By the way, this is what the U.S. Department of Education calls grit, tenacity, and perseverance, and says it's one of the most important attributes to instill in students at risk. And also, that guess what? Right now it's not being taught very much. How do we teach it? Well, one great way is to have students work toward a goal. And that's exactly what Alex is about to do. He's not giving up. He is reading with Shadow, and even though those letters are still squirming and wiggling under Shadow's watchful eye, only the sneakiest ones manage to get off the page. He helps a friend, even though it's hard for him, so everything is going just great. And then Mrs. Sandy drops a bombshell. She reminds the class that before the kids can earn their stuffed animals the next day, they have to take a spelling test. Well, here's Alex's response to a spelling test. I'm curious how your kids feel about spelling. Anyone raise your hand, write comments, or use the chat box? I know for my son, spelling was probably his least favorite thing in the whole world. Well, let's hear a little bit more about how Alex feels about spelling. Spelling made Alex feel stupid. Too many letters looked one way and sounded another, and sometimes they didn't make any sound at all. Alex imagined silent L's and E's creeping around on tiptoe, trying to trip him up. I'd rather pour milk on a bowl of broccoli and eat it for breakfast, Alex thought. Well, right now he's so upset he just can't eat more than one bite of his peanut butter and jelly sandwich. He goes home. He avoids spelling as long as he can. And then finally, he goes to go get his list, and he can't find it anywhere. Disaster. But what's that Shadow doing? Shadow is sniffling and snuffling inside his backpack. And ta-da! She pulls out the list. Oh no, it's covered with peanut butter and jelly from his leftover lunch. Okay, at this point, Alex really is ready to give up. He's never going to go to school again. He thinks he and Shadow should move to an island where maybe, homework is against the law and spelling bees are just bees that know how to spell. While Alex is doing his moaning and groaning, Shadow is busy slurping and licking and slurping and licking. And Alex looks and sees Shadow has licked the list clean. Well, this really fills Alex shot full of hope. And now Alex and Shadow are able to study their spelling words. Hey, they even miss their favorite TV shows and never even notice. So the next day, Alex takes the test. And he doesn't get all the words right, but for the first time, he gets more wrong, and he earns the rat. Well, next slide, please. Congratulations, Alex, said Mrs. Sandy. You're a courageous student. You didn't give up. You helped others. And I think you believe in yourself more, too. Well, Alex still wasn't sure what that last part meant, but he didn't care. He had the rat. Well, of course, this should be the end of the story, but in real life, our kids with learning disabilities tend to have more than one setback, and their journey to reach their goals can be far more circuitous, and so it was for Alex. So here's what happens. He puts his rat in his backpack, but he's so excited during lunch he can only have one bite of his favorite cheddar cheese and pickle sandwich, and he starts to daydream. Everyone should see this rat and realize how cool Alex was. In fact, maybe if he put it up in the window at home, the kids would come by, and maybe there'd be a whole school-wide field trip to come see Alex and his rat. News Chopper 2 would swoop down for a closer look. But when he gets home, he finds really the perfect place for that rat. And it's on the mantel above the fireplace. Well, Mom sees it, clueless Mom, I should say, and she says, "Honey, that's not a trophy, it's a toy. What, toys don't belong on the mantel." And this one even smells funny. If I didn't know better, I'd say your rat had been eating cheese and pickles. Well, obviously, clueless Mom just doesn't get it. So Alex takes his rat and puts it in his room and thinking, well, maybe after dinner when it's dark, I can come and see those eyeballs glow in the dark. But that night, when he opens the door, he lets out a cry. Shadow had chewed up his rat. Poor Alex, poor Shadow, and poor rat. And that rat kind of smelled like cheese and pickles. Well, clueless Mom offers to buy him a brand new rat. Now, I'm wondering out there, how do you suppose Alex responds to that? Anyone, you can put something in your chat box, raise your hand. Do you think he's like, "Yeah, Mom, let's go shopping"? No.
Yeah, no, we have people saying no, that's not what would happen. He'd probably be crying.
Absolutely. Clueless Mom, what Alex says is, "No, Mom, you can never get me another one like this one. This was special because I earned it." You know, that pride in his voice was really a light bulb moment, and clueless Mom finally wises up. She knew how hard he must have worked to achieve his goal, and so the two of them sit down, they sew the rat back together again, and Mom puts it in its rightful place on the mantel above the fireplace. How does that rat look now? Well, stitches laced up the rat's belly, and one ear was crooked, but Alex didn't mind. The rat reminded him of his courageous journey. Alex thought about all that he had accomplished. He didn't give up. He tackled sneaky spelling words and helped his friends, too. I did all that, he told himself, not by being like everyone else, but by being me. Alex found the courage to be okay with himself just the way he was, different. And you know, that actually gave him an idea, a big, bold, super-duper different idea for a program that would become the Shadow Project, which is named for you-know-who, and right now what you're seeing in front of you is the real Alex and the real Shadow, and the Shadow Project is a real-life organization that has empowered more than 8,000 children in Portland, Oregon, who learn differently, to discover their own hidden strengths, and most importantly, to believe in themselves, because as we know, that takes the most courage of all. So what is courage anyway? Remember, Alex thought it was some kind of superhero power. And in our culture, I think we do tend to think of courage as something big and splashy, and we applaud it. The reality is that the most valiant courage, the kind of courage it takes for a child to go to school every day when he feels like he doesn't belong, is often invisible. And therefore, it's not acknowledged and it's not celebrated. And that's a shame. How would you define courage? Anyone press your button? Have any thoughts on that? These are some definitions I found online that I liked, especially the last one. Anything a person would naturally, the ability to confront pain, fear, humiliation, or anything else a person would naturally stay away from. Anyone else have some definitions of courage they'd like to share?
Yeah, I think you
Be
were right.
courageous.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you were right, though, because a lot of people, I think, do think that it has to be this big, crazy thing that they do. But for our kids, it really is just even going to school and keeping a smile on and, you know, helping somebody else and not letting the everyday pressures get to them. And that's not something that every kid goes through. But of course, you know, if your kid's brain isn't wired to just sit there all day behind a desk, it's hard for them. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so I think we have to recognize that. We have parents that are actually saying very similar things here in the chat box. So, okay, let's
Wonderful.
go ahead and continue on.
So how do we help kids manifest their natural courage? Well, you know, it turns out there's a lot of science around this. The researchers call it growth mindset, and it goes something like this. Basically, your brain is a muscle. The more you use it, the more it grows. And when do those neural connections form and deepen most? Not when we succeed with an easy task, but when we make mistakes doing the difficult ones. That's right, when we make mistakes. So a child with a fixed mindset is a child who believes he's smart or is stupid. And if you believe you're stupid, you're not going to try anything you think you might fail at. Growth mindset is the belief that your ability and your competence grows through effort, struggle, and even failure. And I think that's got some pretty big implications for kids whose biggest risk is giving up on school and, of course, on themselves. So how do we help our kids persevere? Well, I talked a little about goal setting. If we can go to the goal setting slide here. And goal setting is something that Alex did at school that a lot of kids, strangely enough, don't all do at school, and it's something they can do at school and at home. And I'd like to read you this quote from a 20-year longitudinal study about goal setting for students with learning disabilities, and that is the ability to set and meet goals to persevere in the face of difficulty are critical success predictors for students with disabilities, and they have a greater influence on success than academic achievement, gender, socioeconomic status, ethnicity, and IQ. So to me, that's really powerful. So in the Shadow Project, what we do is we have goal-setting kits that we use, and here's a page from one of them. And you might recognize some characters there. You see Shadow the dog. Well, this is a whole kit that works kids step by step through every step they need to set a goal of their own, the steps they need to take to achieve it, and a celebration along the way and at the end. And kids can color it in. We have pictures in here of Alex, and the girls turn the girl into a boy. We have a very diverse population, so the kids are all different skin colors. In other words, they take tremendous ownership of it themselves, and it's very step by step. For instance, one of the things you have to do is identify who your allies are. Now, you remember in the book that Shadow was Alex's ally for a couple of reasons. One, she loved him just the way he was, and two, she helped him take that spelling test. She helped him foster his courage. So really, to summarize, to foster courageous readers, we want to set goals. And as I mentioned, it's really great, and again, you can do this. You can do any kind of format, and you can do this at home as well, is let children set and meet their own goals. What we find in the Shadow Project is the number one goals kids want to set and meet is, I want more people to like me. Well, that's great. You can help a child put together the steps that might help them make a friend. And then you celebrate the incremental progress, and as you go through this and they're successful, you now have a template for success that they can go back to again and again and try more challenging goals. The second piece is perseverance. I think in schools particularly, we need to create an environment where it's safe for our kids to take risks. It's not really safe when you feel like you're surrounded by these fire-eating book monsters. But how do we create that environment? Here's something we do in the Shadow Project, and that's that we reframe failure as courage. And let me give you an example of what I mean. We had a third grade girl who was handed actually a first grade book, and she opened that book and she slammed it shut and she threw it at the teacher and yelled, "I can't read." Why? Because by age 9, she had already tried reading and failed, tried reading and failed, tried reading and failed, and she was not going to feel that humiliation again. And when she slammed shut that book, she could have been slamming shut the book for the last time and slamming it shut on her life. But suppose her effort, any effort, regardless of the outcome, was acknowledged as courageous. That's what I mean by creating a safe environment. So now maybe the goal for her is to listen to a page or two of a book from a Learning Ally book, right? So she's just listening instead of having to read aloud herself. Maybe she can accomplish that, and even if she sets the goal to read 2 pages online and she only reads 1, regardless of the outcome, because she tried something difficult, she is going to be acknowledged and applauded and rewarded as a courageous student. So now she's going to be so much more likely to persevere next time. And by the way, that's what happened with that girl. By the end of the year, she was reading at an end of first grade level. And that takes us to the final point. Believe in yourself, because that takes the most courage of all. In the book and in real life, Alex would always say, well, why can't I just be like everyone else? And you know, I think now if he was like everyone else, yeah, maybe he wouldn't have struggled so much, but he wouldn't be half the person he is today. Wanting to be someone who you're not is really exhausting. It saps all our energy. And you know, research tells us that what you believe about yourself has a tremendous impact on your schooling and on your life. And that children who have learning disabilities are going to experience more failure. And they generally don't feel as good about themselves as kids who don't have learning disabilities. And that can lead them to make bad choices. that affect them for a lifetime. And the good news is the opposite is true as well. The I can moment. I hope that all your children experience that magical I can experience, not once, but every single day of their lives. At the Shadow Project, we work with some fabulous teachers. They do lesson plans. My favorite I can lesson plan is called C is for Courage, and you can find a video of it on our website, along with other information and resources. And really, our vision is that children everywhere will all recognize themselves as capable, courageous, and able to learn. So thank you very much, and I understand we're going to do some questions now.
Yeah, we are. And, that's just such a wonderful talk and message. I think that one of the key points you hit on is how important it is for us to help encourage our kids and have them keep trying. I mean, negative self-talk is something that a lot of us struggle with when you especially have learning disabilities, and we get in the habit of constantly talking negative to ourselves, and we have to have other people come alongside us and kind of get us back on track. So I just love how you talked about that, and like that little girl, to just inch her along a little bit. I mean, a lot of people would just say, oh, well, she's got behavior problems or whatever, and move on. But I mean, we can really help these kids. It just has to be a slow process that we inch them along. We do have a couple questions, so I'm going to dive into those. The first question is, does Alex still have his rat, and does the rat have a name?
Well, okay, I have to admit to a little literary license here. What he actually earned in real life was a stuffed Garfield toy, but it had and it came from a thrift store that a special education teacher had bought it, and it did actually have the suction cup claws, but I didn't want to use Garfield in the story because it has, well, for one thing, it's copyrighted, and
Right.
Garfield has its own identity.
I love the rat, though. That was perfect. I think it's awesome, and I love the artwork. It's gorgeous. So then we have another one that has come in. Is there a way that I can get a copy of the goal-setting kit for my own child?
Absolutely. The goal-setting kits are available online on our website, which is, you see right there, shadow-project.org.
Mm-hmm.
If you go under resources and then click teacher resources, you will have access to the goal-setting kits. Again, they are tied in with the book, but I think they would work under any circumstance.
Oh, absolutely. It's just the basic foundation I think as parents, we don't think about these kind of things. And even in school, so many things that we always instruct our kids along with in school, we don't have in place anymore. It's all about taking that test. And our kids, of course, don't do well on these tests. So, it's sad that they're not able to do this. So even doing it at home, though, is a wonderful thing. Another question came in. Do you have any advice for us clueless moms out there who seem to miss it sometimes? Like the mom in the story did. I hate it when I don't see it the same way as my kiddo.
That is a wonderful question because, of course, clueless mom was me, and I was clueless for a long time. I really didn't fully appreciate my son's struggle, and it was amazing to me. I used to make a living as a writer, and the written word is, what put food on the table, and I had a son who despised the written word, and I mean, he loved being read to. I think this moment was my huge wake-up call, and I think for us it opened the door to a conversation about him feeling comfortable enough to say how he really felt. Our kids want to protect us. I sat down with a mom a few weeks ago who said for a while, she could tell her son was unhappy, but he didn't say anything. And then he started coming home from school, and every day he would just go under the table and hide. Actually, no, he would go under the bed and hide because he was so terrified by having to read every day, and he couldn't do it. It's embarrassing sometimes for our kids to be able to talk about how they really feel and what's really happening with them. Until my son until I actually got to see my son in school one day. His teacher invited me to stand outside the classroom when it was reading time, and I saw all the other kids reading, and my son was sitting there in his chair with his book open on top of his head, and he was rocking back and forth and humming to himself. And I talked to him about it afterwards, and he didn't want me to know. So I think it's creating that safe environment. Talking to your child about things that were hard for you growing up, whether they're reading or anything else. Inviting your child to know that it's okay to say they don't feel good about themselves or something that they're struggling with. And they will tell you if they feel that they're going to be heard and understood. But boy, we're not going to pick it all up ourselves, because unless we have that disability, we truly don't know what it feels like.
Right. And that's why I think it's so important to share our own struggles with our kids, because, they look at us like these parents that don't have, that we know everything and we don't have any of these problems. And as parents, we kind of like that, we don't usually explain to our kids like maybe that we had trouble with this or that we still do. And it could be something as simple as maybe you're not a good cook, but if you express that to your kids and help them to understand that everybody has things they're not good at, it really opens that dialogue, so.
And let me add to that too. Another thing I did is, I'm a terrible artist. At my age, I still draw stick people. My son is a wonderful artist. So at a very early age, instead of him always being the one who was helped, he helped me. Mm-hmm. If I needed something drawn, he drew it for me. He showed me what things should look like.
That is
it's really empowering to put them in the driver's seat, just like they own their own goals. A way with you is, oh, Alex, I'm so bad at drawing, and he would draw things for me.
Right.
One thing we do in schools, too, in some of our schools, we have kids who've been in the Shadow Project for a long time, and now the 4th and 5th graders who really used to struggle with their goals are now helping the 1st and 2nd graders with their goal-setting kits. So helping someone else is a really good way to feel better about yourself.
Absolutely. I think that's key. We have a couple questions coming in that are kind of the same, and everybody wants to know what Alex is doing now.
Alex attended college. He has a degree from the University of Denver and wound up not going into the field he studied. It took him a while to discover what his passion really was, and it's really his strength is his personality, and he loves promoting products he believes in, so he has gone into sales and marketing and is doing really well. But, he still says, Mom, I struggle every day. There are some things that he'll never do the way other people do, and he's just accepted that about himself and really focuses on his strengths.
That's awesome. Okay, so another question we have is, who are some of the key allies that you see helping a lot of these students that you're working with? And are there specific people in the school or specific technology and services that you recommend getting these kids connected with?
There's a couple of different things. I think having a relationship with your teacher isn't just important. Research shows that it has a tremendous impact on student outcomes. So I would hope that if not the mainstream teacher, if there's a special ed teacher involved, that child would consider the teacher an ally and someone they felt comfortable going to for help. If not, there's certainly a school counselor. Mom and dad can be allies. They can have friends who help, who they feel comfortable discussing their issues with. A friend can be their ally. In terms of technology, boy, there's a lot of apps out there now. One thing I would really recommend that parents encourage their schools to get, there's this program called Newsella, and I don't know if anyone's familiar with that, because a lot of current events and everything in classes, you read newspaper articles or online from the newspaper. This Newsella will provide the individual newspaper articles at different reading levels. So, for example, if you're in a 5th grade classroom and you have some kids read at 7th grade level and you have some kids read at 1st grade level, everyone on their tablet gets the copy of the article at their own reading level. So when it's time to discuss the article, and no one can see that your reading level is lower. You're on the same playing field as someone else. And I know that that's been tremendously empowering for kids with disabilities.
Oh, wow, that's a wonderful resource. I haven't heard of that, and I'm going to definitely check into it. Okay, so the next question is, how can I get my school involved in the Shadow Project?
Well, unless you're in the Portland, Oregon area, we aren't. We would love to someday be in every school in the country. Right now, we are still a small nonprofit. We serve 34 schools and 1,500 kids, but they're all in the Portland, Oregon area. But I think there are a lot of tools that schools can incorporate, such as lessons in courage, classroom lessons, teaching as part of diversity, appreciation for kids who learn differently. And I think that the tide is starting to turn just a little bit. Historically, this has been a tremendously marginalized population. And I think we're getting a little bit better about being aware and appreciating children who bring different things to the table. However, I would encourage anyone who is interested in having this in their school to contact their school and have their school contact us, because the bigger our waiting list, the more folks who are asking for it, the more that we have the opportunity to expand. Because ultimately we believe right now we're the only organization of its kind in the country. And unfortunately, I think it says something about the historical level of importance that society has placed on learning disabilities, that we're still the only organization of its kind in the country. And our partnership with teachers is also based on research, because we know that research tells us that a teacher's effectiveness has more impact on student outcomes than anything else under the control of the school district. And most teachers do not feel empowered to be able to equip their kids to be successful in school. And we've heard that from mainstream teachers, we've heard that in studies, and we constantly hear from special education teachers that they have too many kids on their caseload and they don't have the tools and resources to help that child achieve his potential.
Okay, good information. We have someone asking, what exactly does it kind of, we realize it's in Portland area only, but what does it look like for the school? I mean, do they have a curriculum? Is there a meetings, or are the teachers trained, or what does it look like in the actual school?
Great question. So there are multiple pieces to that. What we do is we provide professional development for teachers. And let me say here, the majority of our schools are Title I. About 75% of the kids in our program are from homes at or below poverty level. So we partner with the school districts to serve the highest needs schools. Every year we do a professional development seminar for teachers. For instance, this year it's going to be on operationalizing growth mindset in the classroom. We also train all these teachers in our program, and we provide them support all year long. And what we train them in is our core program, which is something called a goal-setting program, not surprisingly. And teachers have something called shadow bucks. So as students make incremental progress toward their goals, they earn shadow bucks, and at the end of the month they go to the shadow store and they get to earn things, just like Alex, remember, earned that rat, actually a Garfield. But in the real shadow project, kids are earning things that they normally would have shied away from. For instance, we put about 5,000 books in the hands of these kids last year. They are choosing. Somehow when you give a child who's a reluctant or struggling reader a book, he may not be too excited, but if a book is a reward for your hard work, you have a completely different attitude toward it. We also have art supplies and school supplies. We have gifts for our kids to give others, because being able to earn and give someone a gift is very empowering, and again, it puts you in the driver's seat. And that is our And that program has been endorsed by the Harvard Business School Association of Oregon in instilling perseverance and goal setting and several other attributes that help kids succeed. We've developed something new recently we're very excited about. Oh, and we have a warehouse that the school district donates to us, and our teachers come and, quote, shop 4 times a year, and they pick out the multi-sensory or the multicultural books that they feel are really going to resonate with their kids, or they pick out the art supplies or school supplies. And our school supplies, by the way, are very fun. There's pencils that have different scents. There are erasers where you can that are in the shape of skateboards and they have wheels. So, or you can even get school supply goodie kits that look like a goodie kit that you'd get at a birthday party. Our most recent venture is something called Super Sensory Literacy Spaces. And, oh, I wish I had a fidget with me right now, but what those are Oregon's first specialized multisensory libraries for special education classrooms or for kids who learn differently. And these supersensory spaces are compact libraries, and they access to Learning Ally. And look, just magically, I have a fidget with me.
That's cool.
So they contain things like fidgets. We have all kinds of fidgets because these help children calm themselves and focus, particularly during test taking, recent statewide test taking, which is now incorporating smarter balance, which is particularly hard for kids with learning disabilities. And that includes everything from these fidgets. We have weighted cushions, we have vibrating pillows, we have nubby serviced cushions, everything that will calm them and help them focus and concentrate while they're reading or taking tests. We also have more than 200 books that are geared specifically to the student population. I have to tell you, the reason we did this was we did a survey of our special education teachers, and 70% of them responded that their biggest unmet need for their students was a decent classroom library, because most of their special ed libraries were made up of leftover books from the mainstream. They were at the wrong reading level, and all the books were in English, and a lot of our kids have English as a second language. They didn't even have book sets, and of course there's a lot of group reading done. So what we did was develop what we call, as I say, these supersensory literacy spaces. And I want you to know too, if you can go online, and we've got all kinds of information about our what we call our SSLSs. Try to say that 4 times fast. And so they contain 200 books. We're really focused on multisensory books. I'll give you an example. We had one boy named Chandler, and he was not a kid who liked to read. But there was a book that had a harmonica attached to it. And the only way you could learn to play the harmonica was to read the book. So lo and behold, not only did Chandler learn to play the harmonica, that his teacher would say that later she would see him walking down the hall with the book open reading it. So something that stimulates the child's senses, books that really resonate with them, are a big part of these libraries. We also have something probably everyone is familiar with called high-low books, which are high interest to kids, but a low level reading level. So you feel like you're reading that big kid book. And of course, we have the wonderful Learning Ally, which our teachers tell us is changing our kids' lives, and they are willing to take on books that normally would have been way too difficult for them. And then we also try to provide a lot of the popular books that they use in Learning Ally within our library setting. And that way the child may actually graduate to reading that book by himself. And we have these right now in schools. We're in a partnership with Portland Public Schools. It's called Read Together. It's a collective impact project with a group of other nonprofits that's working with the school district to help move the dial for third grade reading. Because what we know right now is in Oregon, and perhaps this is the case elsewhere, 2/3 of our kids with disabilities in third grade do not meet state reading benchmarks, and that can quadruple their risk of school dropout. And so we're trying to move the dial for that.
Wow, that's phenomenal work that you guys are doing. I have someone asking a question. What is the name of that high-low reading series? Or do you know of one that they could maybe check out?
We have several, and what we'll do is we have someone at our office here who is going to be handing me a piece of paper with that on there.
Okay,
One thing
cool.
I will tell you, one I know that I definitely, High Noon is good.
I knew.
Buford Junior High is another one, and I remember they're a little bit more difficult to get these days, but the Great Illustrated Classics are high-low. They have, it's very large type, there's some illustrations. A lot of people also consider Diary of a Wimpy Kid to be kind of high-low. Those are probably the most popular books with our kids.
Captain Underpants too, because the
Oh,
kids get
Captain
started
Underpants
on
is
that.
great.
Someone is asking about Miss Sandy in the book. So is Miss Sandy real? Is she a teacher, and is she still teaching, or is she involved with the work you guys are doing?
Mrs. Sandy Cicchini was Alex's wonderful special education teacher, and he has stayed in touch with her many years. She is retired now, and yes, she has continued to stay involved with the Shadow Project. She volunteered. She was always calling me and giving, why aren't you doing this? And giving us great ideas about ways. We actually have a wonderful, one of the large, on our Facebook page, which I encourage everyone to join our Facebook page. There's a wonderful post about showing the real Mrs. Sandy, which is a picture of her next to her likeness in the book, and it's a pretty similar likeness, and I think we got more likes on that than any other page, and
That's
she's
cool.
awesome.
That's really cool. So we have a couple more questions. One of the questions, though, is did it take you a long time to write the book, or what's the process for writing a book? I mean, there's a lot of people are kind of inspired to write stuff, but it's one of those things we don't really know how to do it. So if we could pick your brain on that a little bit.
Well, this is a lesson on not giving up because I originally wrote the book and I thought, wow, this is really great. And I took it to one of those, it was a children's book writing course. It was a week long, and I was so excited to go and show off my book. And anyway, I was like the classic before picture. It was horrible. No one had a single good thing to say. And I was totally dejected and decided I will never write another word again. I felt like a failure and really felt it because I had been successful at other types of writing in my life. It's what I had done for a living. This was tremendously discouraging. And then somehow I decided, I'm going to take this one course, and it was at a community college. And I mentioned I had written the book before to the teacher, and she said, well, then you can be the first to present. And I'm like, holy tamale, I know it's bad. I have to rewrite it. So I rewrote it very quickly, completely different, and it was okay. I sent it to some publishers. It got rejected, and then it got picked up by a publisher. And I was absolutely thrilled, and they hired fabulous illustrators, you can tell from the drawings. And lo and behold, a few months before the book was going to come out, the publisher went bankrupt. So then I needed to send the book out again, and I found, which was kind of discouraging, and I sent it to a small publisher, and he picked it up, and I'm just glad I didn't give up. But
Yeah.
And I will tell you that of what I originally wrote, how many words or how many sentences from the original book are in the final one, and it's 0.
Oh, that's great. I think it's funny because that really gave you a feel too of maybe how Alex felt,
Yes.
when he thought he was going to be able to do something. These kids all show up to school thinking, I'm going to be the smartest kid there. I'm going to read. I'm going to learn all this stuff. And when they don't, it's really kind of shocking sometimes because they know they're smart. They can't figure out what the problem is. So it was kind of neat that you were able to experience basically the same thing.
I have lots of experience with failure.
That's wonderful. Oh my gosh. So let's see. How about books? Do you know of any books or anything that would help us to learn more about encouraging students and goal setting, or any ideas that we can tap into more resources around that?
I would read the book, and I can't remember the author's name right now, but there's a fabulous book called Grit, Tenacity, and Perseverance, How Children Succeed in School. Carol Dweck is the world's leading researcher on growth mindset, and she has a half dozen books out, and they're all excellent reading. Their titles are usually things called mindset, but her last name is spelled D-W-E-C-K. I think, I really loved the books by Henry Winkler, who, remember the Fonz?
Yeah,
I don't know if anybody's out there is
Frank
old enough to
Zipser.
remember the Fonz. He wrote a series of books featuring a dyslexic third grader, and I really like those books. They're very subtle because in every case, in every one of and they're called the Hank Zipser series, and in every case, it looks as if the character's disability is going to be a liability, and sometimes it ends, but in the end, somehow it's ultimately what saves the day. So I love those. I love that series. But, there aren't a whole lot of books for kids on this topic.
Right. But as parents, if we can, parents and teachers, and we can learn these little things, and I think it's just really, I'm so inspired by this, just the stuff you've shared with us, because these are things, again, that we forget about. These kids need to have this positive influence, and it could be something as small as earning a stuffed animal. Today our kids have so much, our kids are so overloaded with stuff, but earning something is completely different. And just to think about that, I think is really been kind of an eye-opener for me, just how those little things can make such a huge difference for these kids.
Everything aligns with the growth mindset model. But, we were doing it before that term was popular, but it's really about celebrating incremental progress, having a goal. I have to tell you, sometimes we've gone into schools and sixth graders don't know what a goal is or how to achieve it. And it's really hard to meet your target when you don't know what it is.
Right.
But the process of goal setting, which is identifying what it is, why it's important to me, what do I have to do to achieve it, what do I look like as I achieve my goal, who's going to help me along the way, what happens when I have a setback, who can I turn to, what are some strategies? And then that celebration at the end it's your template for success, because what are you doing? You're persevering. You're not giving up. You're building your confidence. You're willing to take a risk. And at the end, as I say, you have that template that you can go back to. You know you can do it because you've done it before.
Right. And man, that goal setting is just a huge piece of it. I think you're so right. If you don't have a goal, you don't even know what you're shooting for. And a lot of times these kids get early on, they experience failure so much that they don't even want to set goals. They don't want to take a chance that they're going to fail, but they really need to have us inch them along and help them think bigger, And that's wonderful. The information you have shared is just phenomenal. I'm so excited actually about this project. I want to learn more about it. I'm definitely going to be going on to your website and your Facebook page and learning as much as I can. I think we've about wrapped our questions. Let me look here one more time to make sure that I have asked everyone's questions. Oh, here we go. Let's see what this one says. This says, thank you so much for sharing your story with us and the work that you're doing with the Shadow Project. I am looking forward to working with you and the Portland Public Schools. So we must have somebody that's up in that area.
Got a Portlander out there.
That's awesome.
Yay!
Cool. Well, I think we have hit them all. Let me just check one more time. That is it. Do you have anything else, Christy, that you want to share before we wrap?
No, I just want to say I appreciate everyone being here, and I think it's great for us as parents to encourage our kids to manifest their own courage, but we can't do it alone. We need to do it in the school systems, and it's not up to an individual teacher here or there. It has to be part of the culture of the school that we are teaching courage to our students. And I'll go one step further and say we need to be doing it in our community and our society. There are so many successful people out there with a learning disability, but they're still not talking about it. I guess I kind of want them to out themselves.
Right.
To provide, how can we expect our children to feel pride instead of shame if they don't have the role models?
Mm-hmm.
So I want everybody to talk. I would love for famous or just successful people to come forward and say, yes, reading is still hard for me. I struggle, but I have a successful life, and really to own it and share that information with our kids.
Right. So true. So very true. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up because that's all the time we have today. But this has just been a wonderful presentation. I want to thank you so much for sharing it with us. We've just really enjoyed it. If you want to go ahead and go to the next slide. We actually are going to have a blog post. If you look at the learningally.org website, there will be a blog post that will have all the titles to these book chats. I'll have a link actually to all the titles that will give the recording. So just like today's recording, we've done several of them throughout the summer here. And we also are going to be raffling off 10 mobile devices and then 25 Learning Ally surprise packages if you join the Summer Reading Together program. And you can do that also by going to the Learning Ally website. So follow us on social media. We have a Learning Ally parent chat. We have a Learning Ally Facebook page. We have the new program with the Yes Ambassadors. We have a new website called the 1 in 5, and that's a wonderful resource too. And so as you leave the event today, though, you're going to get a quick survey. So if you would fill that out, that would be awesome. That way it helps us to dial in the things that we need to keep providing, and we hope to have more events like this, so your feedback is very helpful. I want to thank everybody for joining us today, and I want everybody to have a great rest of your day. Chrissy, thanks again so much. We really appreciate you sharing the information with us, and Learning Ally definitely looks forward to working with you in the future.
Great. Thank you so much.
All
Thanks,
right.
everyone.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.